Okay, let's jump right into this fascinating 50-point blueprint put together by Basil El-Habil. Now, this is an incredibly detailed document that totally reshapes how we view operations in massive, complex institutions, specifically looking at the United Nations. We so often think of administration as just, well, paperwork, but this guide completely reframes it as an architecture of delivery. It is quite literally a masterclass in how you lead complex operational systems when the stakes are incredibly high, resources are tight, and the conditions on the ground are incredibly fragile. So here is our roadmap for today. We're breaking this dense strategy down into 4 totally manageable layers. We've got 1, the delivery architecture, 2, layer 1, executive alignment, 3, layer 2, operational integration, 4, layer 3, organizational culture, and wrapping up with 5, layer 4, evidence and accountability. Starting off with section 1, the delivery architecture and reframing program support. We really need to kick things off by challenging a massive misconception about what operations, HR, finance, and procurement actually do. Traditionally, right, people look at these roles as narrow, back-office posts, just a bunch of bureaucratic hurdles you have to jump through. But El-Habil flips the script entirely. Operations absolutely must be seen as strategic delivery leadership. We're talking about an agile, anticipatory setup that acts as the actual engine of the mandate. It shifts the entire vibe of an organization from being purely reactive, putting out fires, to practicing true anticipatory management. And that brings us to this new paradigm, program support. Think of it as the literal architecture connecting your big ambitions with reality. Because teams can have the most ambitious, groundbreaking policy goals in the world, but if they aren't directly linked to the right resources, people, systems, and digital tools, well, those goals just stay abstract ideas. Program support is the mechanism that makes that overarching vision a physical, tangible reality on the ground. And it does it with integrity and speed. To actually pull off this architecture, El-Habil establishes 4 core layers. If you want to fundamentally transform an institution's operations, you've got to build from the top down and the bottom up simultaneously using these exact 4 steps. Which brings us to layer 1, executive alignment. This is where the high-level executive vision actually hits the daily mechanics of implementation. You've got a really stark choice here. Are you stuck in fragmented activity with all these silos, disjointed teams, and hidden bottlenecks? That's what happens when operations are treated as an afterthought. Or are you operating with coordinated performance? When you have a unified operating model, those constraints become visible executive choices. It means leadership can actually make decisions based on realistic budgeting and real capacity, rather than just, wishful thinking. To achieve that level of coordination, leaders absolutely have to prioritize a few specific actions. We're talking strengthening results-based planning and modernizing how budgets are allocated. But most importantly, and this is huge, you have to link your program design directly to operational feasibility. Because honestly, if you don't do that, your big, shining policy goals are just going to crash right into a brick wall the second you realize you forgot to actually hire the people to execute them. Okay, stepping into layer 2, operational integration. This part is all about taking those different operational silos we just talked about and fusing them into one seamless delivery system. It poses what I think is the million-dollar question for any leader. What actually kills a great, well-intentioned initiative on the ground in a super complex entity like the UN? You can have the absolute best policy framework ever created, but why does it still fail? Well, here are the culprits, the brutal institutional risks, late recruitment, unclear delegations of authority. I mean, just imagine a crisis zone where emergency relief is completely halted simply because nobody knows whose signature is needed to buy blankets. It's wild, but it happens. If you don't tightly integrate HR, finance, and procurement, these extremely common everyday failures will literally suffocate your mission and completely erode trust in your institution. To fix those exact vulnerabilities, Basil brings in the concept of aligning with UN 2.0. He really insists that massive organizations absolutely must responsibly digitize their business processes. And look, it's not just about slapping some new software onto a broken system. It's about applying data, foresight, behavioral science, and digital innovation to fundamentally simplify how work gets approved and executed. Just look at the difference here. The old way, you are drowning in manual approvals, scattered files, and completely invisible risks. It is slow and incredibly frustrating for everyone involved. The UN 2.0 way, though, shifts everything to modern, user-centered digital workflows powered by secure systems. The whole goal is to leverage data dashboards so executives actually have real-time access to finance, HR, and procurement info. That way, they can make rapid, informed decisions. But hey, how do you make sure your staff actually uses these shiny new systems? Enter Layer 3, organizational culture. Because, let's face it, the best systems in the world are completely useless without staff buy-in. We have to pivot away from rigid, fear-based rule enforcement and move toward what he calls contextual adaptation. If your staff are paralyzed by a blame culture and obsessed with abstract compliance, literally nothing moves forward. El Habil advocates for a heavily solutions-oriented culture. It's about humane management. You still apply the rules faithfully, of course, but you design implementation pathways that genuinely support the actual human beings who are trying to get the job done. Basically, this means treating support functions as a way to elevate your people. Human resources has got to move way beyond transactional staffing. It needs to become a genuine talent strategy. You have to actively prioritize the duty of care, promote staff well-being, and push for gender equality and inclusive administration, even in things like facilities and procurement. And here's the secret: a culture of respect doesn't weaken accountability at all. It actually makes it way more credible. I really love this quote because it grounds everything. As Basel points out, delivering UN support isn't always happening in some cushy, climate-controlled office. In fragile, disrupted contexts, like areas dealing with mass displacement or infrastructure collapse, operations demand extreme resilience and deep human empathy. You literally have to adapt the rules to the reality on the ground without losing your institutional integrity. And finally, we hit Layer 4, evidence and accountability. This is the bedrock foundation that keeps the entire structure standing strong and ensures it can actually withstand intense external scrutiny. 50. That number right there represents the total strategic points laid out in this text. 50 distinct leadership lenses, all brilliantly synthesized to ensure that every single operational decision is properly documented, measured, reviewed, and improved. It is a wildly comprehensive system of accountability. By zeroing in on these specific accountability measures, an organization actively proves its credibility. You have to integrate audit follow-ups so they actually lead to better management systems, not just getting shoved in a drawer somewhere. You absolutely must strengthen your partnership due diligence to ensure financial reliability and, frankly, alignment with your core values. Ultimately, things like ethical leadership, strict anti-fraud measures, and transparent decision-making are what secure the confidence of donors, partners, and member states. And here is where it gets really practical. Basel's 100-day leadership agenda. He doesn't just leave us with theory here. He gives us a concrete timeline. This injects incredible momentum and urgency into what is usually a very slow bureaucratic framework. Days 1 to 30 are all about alignment and diagnostic action. Days 31 to 60 shift to integrating operations and actually rolling out system reforms. And then days 61 to 100 are fully dedicated to executive review and cementing that vital culture change. This quote sums up the ultimate tightrope walk of leadership perfectly. Mastering this incredibly tricky balance between strict compliance and rapid agility, between standardization and adapting to the specific context, is the absolute core of operational excellence. You have to fiercely protect the rules, yes, but you must do it while actually serving the people. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to chew on for your own team's operations. Whether you are working inside a massive international institution or just trying to scale a growing business, how can you transform your administrative back office into a true architecture of delivery? Think about how you might integrate these 4 layers into your daily work to really move the needle. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.